there has been a lot of conversation surrounding how will the travel industry function during this COVID era. And of course, being in the heart of the all-inclusive society right here in the Caribbean, I figured even though we have been hearing instructions from the various ministries of health across the region and primarily in Jamaica, it's hard to conceptualize what those changes could look like. And so we took it upon ourselves to spend a few nights just to immerse ourselves, because one of the things with supplier partners, they will tell us as glamorously and as gloriously as they can how comfortable the process that they have undertaken will make our clients. But I wanted to see firsthand, and this is what we discovered. Now, with the big advertisement in the marketplace of slashed prices and reopening specials and all of that, we decided, since the bulk of the advertising and one of the first properties to reopen would be the RIU Ocho Rios, let's go try that out. And try it out we did. One of the first things that caught my attention was the sanitization process at arrival. So you really felt as though you were in a sanitization chamber. Upon alighting from the vehicle, our bags, which normally would have been retrieved by the bellhop, were basically taken and sanitized. So they were sprayed with this sanitizing agent and they were placed off to the side. We were instructed to step on a moist mat, and that was intended to sanitize our shoes. So having done that and continuing to move forward, we walked into another zone where a mounted, I guess that's a digital mounted thermometer, huge, I mean, by thermometer standards anyway, took our temperatures. And I am assuming that the data was recorded on the laptop sitting on the desk just off from the mounted thermometer. And so upon taking our temperature, and I assume we were good, well, I know we were good, we were informed that we could proceed to check in. And of course the markings were there, 6 feet socially distant, and the separation glass was now installed. And so the person on the other side of the counter had just a little hole where documents could have been put through, etc. No longer an open concept as we had enjoyed with the front desk. Important to mention is upon arrival, just before we sanitized our shoes, in the event that you did not have your own masks were provided for you. And of course, there was a no surface contact policy. Thongs were used to extricate the mask from the plastic casing and handed to you. And that is something that we saw quite a bit at several different food outlets, that if you asked the server, they would provide masks. And so began the masked all-inclusive journey. And one of my main reasons for doing this trip was to see, because I could not visualize, in all honesty, how enjoyable a holiday, a vacation could be wearing a mask. Now, I have been fortunate to be incognito for the bulk of the period that this virus has been active. And my location is one where I'm out in the open, just with trees and the insects that you're hearing off in the background. And so there was absolutely no reason to mask up nor to practice social distancing because I was socially distant from everyone most of the time. So I have been fortunate that I did not have to get heavily into the mask culture, because those of you who know me know that I have difficulty with anything covering my face, and breathing becomes a real challenge, and I fight, and I really get antsy when my breathing is obstructed. So I've been fortunate that, unlike most persons who, because of their day-to-day outings and interactions with the public, they might have gotten accustomed to wearing the mask. For me, I have not had that situation, and so wearing the mask became twice a challenge. So, of course, you can only imagine I had a bit of fear and trepidation, knowing that for these many days I would need to be masked up. My biggest observation at the RIU Ocho Rios was that there was an absolute decline in customer service. How I look at it, everybody became COVID police. The whole idea of being cordial and greeting the client and making the client feel welcomed and at home, that went straight through the window. Now it was all about marshalling the troops and policing the people, and forcing, and I say forcing tongue in cheek, but maintaining the mask up regime. And after a while, it became very annoying to the point where we made a decision very early, and good enough it was more a work trip, that we wouldn't really be leaving our rooms much, because the push that was almost unbearable to put your mask on, keep your mask up, it was just a lot, it was a lot. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it was uncomfortable for me. And like anything else, my strong belief is, if you cannot bear what is happening, remove yourself from what might be causing you distress. But I must mention something that I could never have known, because nowhere has it been published. And you know what? I might be wrong, but I don't think they plan to publish it anywhere. The whole sanitization process, and shall we say blaming COVID, or maybe we should put it in another term, based on the instructions from TPD, I'm being told, a lot of strategies were put in place that, and I'm trying to find good words, but the truth about it is 50% of the amenities that are standard simply disappeared. Let's start at the beginning. Now, as an all-inclusive property, the buffet is a major part of the offering. And I knew that you would now be served every step of the way. And that's fine. We've been talking about that quite a bit, particularly with cruise ships, because they have been the first out of the blocks to start commenting on how the life of the buffet will be impacted, and indicating, of course, that, servers would be in place. From an economic standpoint, I'm thinking, more cost per person, because you'll need to physically have more persons doing the serving. My experience at RIU was very, very daunting, to say the least. The buffet was reduced by, dare I say, 60-70%. And I I'm making special mention of the fact that we were there over a major holiday weekend, and it was packed. By the time we got to dinner time, the place was flooded with people. And the buffet offerings were so sparse that, and sparse is one thing, the quality was something else. Three stations bugged me tremendously. The fruit station, it was pathetic. The fruits looked as though they were shipped over from China, came through the Middle Passage, survived Desert Storm, and barely scraped through to make it to the buffet line. Pathetic. Then, of course, desserts. Little cubes of pastry, usually what looks like vanilla, a plain vanilla cake that you could make from the box at home. No pomp and pageantry, no grace or style, nothing that would tantalize your palate. And they were just kind of sitting there. And so for the bulk of my stay, I didn't even look at fruits because, to be honest with you, I do eat with my eyes first. And if it doesn't look good, I don't want it because I don't think it's going to taste good. At mealtimes, there was no smiley face greeting you anymore. It was the regimented leaders of the orchestrated desire to keep us sanitary and sanitized and virus free and temperature free and all of the wonderful things that go with the shift. Nobody seemed to have indicated to the staff that while you're being socially distant, you should still attempt to offer the type of service and the type of warmth that your clients would have paid for and sought. So, going into the restaurant, sanitizing station, of course, and the temperature check all the time. And the hostess attempted to be cordial, but with the lineups, and that's something I must indicate, because you have to be moving in a line to get your meals, particularly when you're at the high traffic dining times. And I'm talking about the buffet simply because the restaurants are so small at RIU. As a matter of fact, I counted 3 restaurants that they have taken out. So the Italian, just off from the lobby, that no longer exists. That space has been taken over by the sports bar. Then there is the what I call the teppanyaki over at the deluxe wing. That was taken out as well. And there's a third restaurant that the Plantation restaurant, that major Jamaican dining restaurant right sitting on the beach, sort of, that has been removed. So we're talking about 3 dining locations that would have managed a good volume of people. The sports bar used to be just downstairs from the Miami Bay restaurant, and that was totally taken out. And even though they have I wouldn't call it a large edifice, because that would have been easily less than 50% of the space that was occupied for the sports bar initially. The snacks are no longer there, so you could have got nachos and cheese and maybe beef patties and hot dogs, hamburgers, sandwiches, that sort of thing. That was removed. So by adding more rooms and improving the amount of heads in beds, RIU Ocho Rios has diminished their food outlets by a huge percentage. It works in COVID because you're kind of streamlining people. But I wonder, how does it really work when they are at full capacity and, The streamline now leads to lines. Now, getting into a specialty restaurant is a feat that I probably will never be able to quite figure out, because there was a point where you would make a reservation, turn up at the restaurant, 5-10 minutes prior to your reservation, and be seated or on time, but just getting there, in time to be seated. And there are those who say for real it didn't work. I have always had my opinion on it, and it's a very simple thing. You have a humongous property that will accommodate large numbers of clients at a time. And the specialty restaurants where persons will want to go, because on a holiday, generally people are celebrating something and they really want to eat out, quote unquote, which is really what the specialty restaurants would represent, even once or twice on their vacation. Now, they are suggesting that the best thing to do if you now want to dine in the specialty restaurant is get there early or get there late, which is kind of weird either way, because on the first night, which was a Saturday night, the line was so crazy. The persons who had set down their names were so many that I just basically gave up. I tried 2 restaurants and it wasn't happening, and that was that. So no restaurants for me. So for so many nights being there, I was stuck having buffet food, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I probably should just talk about the food for a minute. Hands down, best meal of the day, breakfast. Never gonna say the variety is awesome, but the preparation and the flavor was there. After that, it's a steady decline. There is a thought that I don't subscribe to. Because this resort has opened during COVID with a reduced rate, the Jamaican populace has been the main client base. Thanks to that huge group of persons, they are able to have a steady supply of occupants. However, the belief that Jamaicans basically want curry goat, oxtail, and jerk pork, jerk chicken made the buffet very monotonous. Now, I like oxtail, but oxtail in my mind, and this is just me, it should be a treat. Now, when you've had it on the buffet line one day and then you have it again, and then when it's probably a little too dark because too much soy sauce, okay, I won't get into the culinary side, but there's so much. And particularly a property like RIU, back in the day, their food offerings were really, really spectacular. They've taken that away. But enough on the food. So I'm going to jump really quickly because this is becoming very, very long. And I'll just give you points moving forward. In the rooms, it is never like we have ever seen it. The explanation is anything that can be a multiple touch surface has been removed. So you won't have wash rags, take your own. Your liquor dispenser, you will no longer have the liquor, but you will still have the dispenser. Go figure. Your refrigerator, fabulous thing, it is still plugged in. Outside of that, it is empty. Reason behind it, multiple contact surfaces. So you go to the sports bar, you request what you want, and if you were in the deluxe wing like us, you pack a bag and you lug it over to your room. And God forbid, if in the middle of the night you need something and you didn't get it, well, so much for that. No lotions. As a matter of fact, nothing except your regular face rag and towels, facial tissue, and regular tissue will be found in your bathroom. No tea station. Forget having a cup of tea before you head out in the morning or a little coffee. Not gonna happen. So, in summary, 50%, 60% of the general offering has been removed. For the promotion that they're running, I think maybe for this time of the year, it's I don't know, maybe a 30% saving, but you have lost over 60% of what is standard in your trip. Is it worth it? You do the math.